Welcome to Chapter 4. We're going to be talking about strategic capacity management in this class. Strategic capacity management is basically looking at capacity and making sure that the company has all the resources that is for planned demands. So basically what we are saying is a company should ensure that it maximizes its potential activities and production output at all times under all conditions. So the capacity of a business measures how much companies can achieve, produce, or sell within a given time period. So if there is a demand, let's say for Ford, that for the particular month, they need to produce 1,000 Ford cars. The capacity of Ford should be in such a way that they should be able to produce 1,000 more cars. They cannot have a capacity of 800 cars, and they should not have a capacity for 2,000 cars. So when you determine the demand, then the capacity is the next thing that the companies should determine. Okay? So the learning objectives of this class is calculate capacity utilization rate. We're going to be talking about the definitions of capacity utilization rate in a minute. Determine capacity requirements and also apply decision trees for capacity analysis. We might not be doing in this class this one, but this section actually focuses on decision trees. We might come back to the decision trees later on in this class. Okay? Capacity is the ability for a company to hold, receive, store, and accommodate. What it basically means is that the company should be able to have enough resources to meet the demands in a simple way. In services, the output or the demand is often the number of customers served, like in a restaurant. In manufacturing, the output may be the number of units produced, like cars. Capacity management needs to consider both resource inputs and product outputs. There are three different ranges in capacity planning time durations. One is a short range. A short range is usually less than a month. Suppose I'm going to have a demand of 15 computers to be made, assembled in this 2 weeks. I should have the capacity to have the number of people working for me, all the machines that are necessary, all the tools that are necessary to make sure that I can produce these number of computers in these 2 weeks. Similarly, intermediate range is not for less than a month, but for more monthly or quarterly plans, at least for the next 6 to 18 months. Anything more than a year that you have capacity and the plans to have capacity is long range. The strategic capacity planning is to find the overall capacity level of capital intensive resources to support the firm's long-term strategy. So what are these capital intensive resources? Facilities is one, labor is another, equipment is another. The number of people you have to make sure that you can meet the demand, that is capacity planning. The number of machines that you have to meet the demand is equipment. The electricity, the computers, the IT, the water, and any other facilities related stuff that you have to meet the demand is facilities. These are the capital intensive resources, and you need to find the overall capacity level of the capital intensive resources. That is basically strategic capacity planning. So we're going to be doing some problems basically based on finding the capacity level. So there are two different things that we need to know. One is the best operating level. The best operating level is the level of capacity for which the company has designed to meet the demand. They have designed the processes to meet the demand. And they have defined the volume of output such that the output is minimal to the demands and the average cost is minimal as well. What I mean by this is that the volume of output should meet the demand and the unit cost of the product should be minimal or minimized. That is the best operating level. Capacity utilization rate is a measure of how close the firm is to its best possible operating level. So let's say, for example, that Tesla is planning to have 30,000 cars for this month. They're producing 30,000 cars this month. Okay, that is their best operating level. Now, if they make 25,000 cars that month, 25,000 cars divided by 30,000 cars, that is 5 by 6. That basically is this 5 by 6, which is 83%. So this 83% is the capacity utilization rate. So if Tesla wants to make 30,000, that is their best operating level. That's what they can do maximum for this month. But they produce only 25,000 cars. Then they are 83% of the capacity utilization rate. This is exactly what we are going to be calculating in this class. Okay, very simple. So you need to know the best operating level, and you need to know the capacity, and you can calculate the capacity utilization rate. We all know what the economies of scale is. As a plant gets larger and volume increases, the economies of scale tells you that the average cost per unit drops. Diseconomies of scale, at some point, the plant becomes too large and the average cost per unit begins to increase. So as the cost goes down, and there is a point, and that point, the cost increases. Okay, and this is the economies of scale and diseconomies of scale. So this is the volume, and this is the cost. Okay. Capacity focus is when plants are becoming innovative, they're doing certain production objectives. One is called a focused factory. A focused factory is like, for instance, General Motors having a small factory where they make or where they assemble cars. They do not make any products. They get products from outside and they assemble. That is very focused. Or a company which makes nuts and bolts and they're not doing anything else but nuts and bolts. That is focus factory. A plant within a plant is another concept which a lot of companies are working with. A plant within a plant means that, let's say in Ford, they're going to have two different models of Ford. And each model is a plant, and both these plants for the two models are housed in the same plant. So there is a plant with two different plants. That is a plant within a plant. It has certain advantages and it has certain disadvantages too. Certain advantages could be that you have enough workforce that you can, if somebody is not doing something, you can send them over there with a lot of cross training and things like that. So the cross training is the one which is disadvantage, where some people cannot be cross trained. Capacity flexibility is the ability for a company to rapidly increase or decrease production levels. How flexible they are with their workforce, how flexible they are with their equipment, how flexible they are with their facilities. That is capacity flexibility. So one of the things that we are going to be looking at in the future is what is called system balance. System balance is a great improvement for changing capacity. So this is to manage bottleneck operations. If there is an operation which is a bottleneck, how do you manage that? You can do that by implementing system balance. There are other ways of changing capacity. One is cost of upgrading too frequently, cost of upgrading too infrequently. That is the frequency of capacity additions, or the same way with reductions as well. Or you can give it for outsourcing. You can share the capacity with someone else, your next door firm or your friend's firm. These are some of the things that you can do for changing capacity. Let's talk about frequent versus infrequent capacity expansions. Suppose I have, over the years, my volume is increasing. As my volume increases, I have a demand forecast that is also having this kind of a trend. You remember all these things from chapter 3? So exactly that's what we are now working on. Once we know what the demands are by forecasting, now we can look at the capacity and see whether we can meet those forecasts. So if suppose I have the demand forecast, and if I'm going to buy things in small chunks, then I'm going to be buying my materials over a lot of period. So this is going to be buying very frequently. Okay. Similarly, I can expand my capacity very frequently as well. Or I can expand it to a larger amount at a time so that I can meet the demand. That depends on many things. One is how much capital the company has, how much money the company has to expand so infrequently. Because sometimes if you expand too much, then you're having only this portion of the capacity. This whole portion is waste for you, right? That is the reason. So in order to be having this infrequent expansion of larger chunks, you need